U.S. has sacked the commander of its military base in Greenland over her alleged attempts to subvert President Trump's agenda. After hosting the American vice president on the Arctic island, Colonel Susanna Myers, who had served as commander of the toughest space base since July, was removed on April 10th amid reports she had distanced herself and the base from the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's criticism of Denmark and its oversight of the territory. The U.S. Space Force said in a statement on April 10th night that Myers had been removed from the position of commander due to a loss of confidence in her ability to lead. Colonel Susanna Myers, commander of Pataphysics Space Base, was removed from command by Colonel Kenneth Clark, commander of Space Base Delta I, on April 10, 2025, for loss of confidence in her ability to lead. Commanders are expected to adhere to the highest standards of conduct, especially as it relates to remaining nonpartisan in the performance of their duties. Colonel Sean Lee has assumed command. Meanwhile, the Pentagon's Chief of Staff, Sean Parnell, had issued a pointed warning on April 10th, declaring that any actions aimed at undermining the military chain of command or subverting Trump's defense agenda will not be tolerated within the Department of Defense. Actions to undermine the chain of command or to subvert President Trump's agenda will not be tolerated at the Department of Defense. Vance had visited the base on the 28th of March in a trip that was substantially changed at the last minute amid increasingly strained relations between the U.S., Greenland, and Denmark. During the visit, he told troops that the U.S. had to gain control of the Arctic island to stop the threat of China and Russia. He also criticized Denmark, which he said had not done a good job by the people of Greenland. Just days after Vance's Mar visit to Pacific Space Base in Greenland, the installation commander sent out an email to the base, distancing it from Vance's criticism of Denmark and its oversight of the territory. The statement did not expand further, but the U.S. website military.com said Myers had sent an email to all personnel on the base on March 31st after Vance's visit, saying that she would keep the U.S., Danish, and Greenlandic flags flying despite the vice president's sharp criticism of Copenhagen that do not presume to understand current politics. But what I do know is the concerns of the U.S. administration, discussed by Vice President Vance on Friday, are not reflective of Bitfew Space Base. Myers sent the message to all personnel at Pacific, seemingly aimed at generating unity among the airmen and guardians, as well as the Canadians, Danes, and Greenlanders who work there. Following Vance's appearance, the email marked a rare pushback within the ranks of the Trump administration's repeated criticism and critiques of NATO's members and longtime allies. A source familiar with the email said it was sent to all base personnel, including those from Denmark and Greenland, on the installation. Greenland has been thrust into the geopolitical spotlight after President Trump repeatedly said that he intends to take over the Arctic island of 57,000 people from Denmark and has refused to rule out using force to do so. Both Denmark and Greenland have said they were willing to work with the U.S. to improve security on the island and in the Arctic. But Denmark, a NATO's ally, has publicly criticized Vance's visit and Trump's rhetoric, saying that the future of the island is solely for Greenlanders to decide. Greenland is a semi-autonomous territory in the Kingdom of Denmark. A new coalition government was formed earlier this month following elections in which pro-independence parties gained traction. But the party leading the coalition, Democratize, seeks a slower path to independence, potentially dashing U.S. hopes that a quick break from Denmark could bring Greenland closer to it. Vance's visit to Greenland highlighted the complexities and contradictions in the Trump administration's assertive approach to engaging with the region. He opened his remarks with a firm statement. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Yet his tone and messaging was seen by some as overly critical of his Danish hosts, while offering limited clarity on the specific motivations behind the U.S.'s renewed interest in Greenland. Vance repeatedly denigrated his Danish hosts, claiming that they had neglected Greenland for 40 years and ignored the encroachment of powerful countries as they expand their ambitions. We need to wake up from a failed 40-year consensus that said that we could ignore the encroachment of powerful countries as they expand their ambitions. We can't just bury our head in the sand, or in Greenland bury our head in the snow, and pretend that the Chinese are not interested in this very large landmass. Vance stressed that traditional Western alliances like NATO are no longer sufficient, hinting that Greenland should abandon Danish oversight in favor of a deeper partnership with the U.S. Our message is very simple. Yes, the people of Greenland are going to have self-determination. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on Earth that will respect their sovereignty and respect their security. The visit has stirred controversy. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called Vance's remarks not justifiable, and local protests forced the cancellation of a planned cultural tour by Vance, his wife. Observers say Trump's impatience mirrored in his approach to Greenland and Ukraine alike, risks undermining long-term U.S. goals in the Arctic. Critics argue that a slower, more respectful diplomatic approach will be more effective than what many in New York now view